To God be the glory. One of the verses says, the vilest of sinners who truly believes that moment from Jesus pardon receives. And do we believe that? That's an important question. Do we believe that Jesus can pardon, that he will pardon the vilest offender who trusts in him? If we really believe that, then we should be telling everyone. But how often do we pick and choose who we want to share the gospel with because we like this person but not that person? I wonder sometimes if this world is in the condition it's in because Christians have been too picky about who they share the gospel with. And so the vilest offenders, instead of getting saved and repenting and turning to Christ and changing their lives, just keep going down the same destructive path they started on. I wonder if sometimes the neglect of Christians isn't moving up the timetable. And if we're going to see, because of our, well, quite frankly, if we believe that he'll save the vilest offenders, but we fail to share the gospel with people we like less. If people that we like, the people that we love, see our hypocrisy and choose not to listen. And if in that case, then those people as well will experience the judgments that we see in the book of Revelation. As we start to look at Revelation chapter 9 today, we'll start to look at the three woes. The three woes are going to begin now. At the end of chapter 8, verse 13, it says, "And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of one of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels, which are yet to sound." And he's saying, woe, misery. That's what that word woe means. It means misery. There is misery coming. As bad as things were before the fifth trumpet, as bad as that they got, with worldwide earthquakes, with stars being extinguished, objects falling to the earth from the sky, and people dying, and blood, water turned to blood, and all these things, as bad as that is, what the angel is saying is it's going to get much worse. And are we ready to share the gospel with people so they avoid that? That's why we have the book of Revelation, quite frankly. The book of Revelation tells us what's going to happen in the end times, after the rapture, when the tribulation happens, and what happens after the tribulation, a 1,000-year reign, and how people, even after 1,000 years of Jesus Christ ruling on this earth, people still rebel against him, and all the things that are going to happen. Why does he tell us that? Because as believers, we don't believe we're going to be here for that because of the rapture. Why do we need to know this? And the answer that comes to my mind, the only logical answer that comes to my mind, apart from God and his sovereign will has decided we need to know this, I believe we need to know this to give us a sense of urgency to share the gospel. Not just with those we love, but with all people. And so we have the trumpet judgments. And the first judgment we saw in verses 6 and 7 of chapter 8 was the angel, when he sounded, and hail and fire mingled with blood fell to the earth and burned a third of the trees and the green and all the green grass. The second trumpet then sounded, and there was a great mountain burning with fire cast into the sea, and a third part of the ocean became blood. A third part of the salt water became blood, and a third of the ships were destroyed. And then the third trumpet judgment. And a great star fell from heaven, burning as a lamp, and a third part of the rivers and fountains of water became poisonous, toxic to humans and to animals. And a fourth angel, the fourth trumpet in verse 12, and it diminished the light of the sun and the stars by a third, and became dark in the earth. And then we had the angel crying, "Woe, woe, woe. It's going to get worse." In chapter 9, verse 1, it says, "And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key to the bottomless pit." The fifth trumpet is now going to sound. I brought this with me today. This is a shofar horn, a shofar trumpet. I believe this is the type of, not this one exactly, obviously. I believe this is the type of horn that the angels are going to be blowing. It is made from an animal's horn, a special process to elongate it, stretch it out. They hollow it out, they cut off the end where you blow in it. And the Jews, they believe that it is a special honor for the animal to be used in this manner. The animal doesn't have to be killed for this, but they believe it's an honor for the animal to be used in this manner because the animal then used in the worship of God. And so I imagine I'm going to ask Joe when I put my lips up to this to turn my mic down. Don't do it yet, but because I'm not really good at this. So anyone on the internet watching, anyone here who knows how to play a shofar horn, any volunteers? No. I'm going to blow this, and it's not going to sound as good as it should because I'm not good at it. But it does give a distinct sound. And this, I believe, is a sound that is going to be heard when they blow their trumpet. So Joe, go ahead and turn me down. Oh, that was bad. Anyways, it was a little bit better earlier. But hey, you gotta go for it sometimes, right? But that's kind of horn I believe that these angels are going to sound. They're going to sound these horns, and these things are going to happen. The events are going to happen. The horn is a signal to whatever it is, living or dead, that's going to cause these tragedies to happen, to do what they're called to do. And so he sounds the horn, and an angel, it says, saw a star fall from heaven to the earth, and to him was given the key to the bottomless pit. And so, this star, what is the star? I believe in this case that the star is an angel or some kind of angelic being. Some believe it to be a fallen angel because it says he fell to the earth. But it simply came down. And this angel, this star, was given the key to the bottomless pit. In verse 2, it says, "And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit." So this star comes to the earth, this angel, opens the bottomless pit with the key that he has been given. And make no mistake about it, this bottomless pit is in the earth. I'm not sure where. Whatever is in there that has been trapped in there for a long time. But when he opens it up, there is a great smoke that comes out of the pit. Smoke like coming from a furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. So a third of the sun light is already gone, a third of the starlight is already gone, and now that diminished light is diminished even more by the smoke coming out of this pit. And then we have what I can only call demonic locusts. These are creatures that, quite frankly, I believe exist. I believe these are literal creatures. I've heard some people believe that these are some form of military technology that is yet to be revealed. I believe these are creatures that God created. Some believe these to be demons of some kind. But I believe they're literally what the Bible describes them to be. It says that these locusts came on the earth, and upon them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And so they were given power to do something. What do scorpions do? They sting. And has anyone here been stung by a scorpion? I haven't either. It's not something I want to try. It is not on my bucket list, okay? I don't have a bucket list that says go get stung by a scorpion, but my understanding is it's extremely painful. And if stung by the right kind of scorpion, it can be fatal, or given enough stings. It says, and it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. And so these scorpion locusts, these creatures, are given authority and power to go out and sting anyone they want to sting, except the 144,000 that have the seal of the Lamb on their heads. Before we get into more of what they can and cannot do, though, I want to look down verses 7 through 10, because 7 through 10 gives us a description of these locusts. And it says, and the shapes of the locusts were likened to horses prepared unto battle. And on their heads were, as it were, crowns like gold. Their faces were as the faces of men. So here it is, these locusts, they had a body that was like it's similar to, it is not a horse's body, by the way. Some have described it as a horse's body, but it's similar to a horse that is set for battle. Prepared for battle. And so a horse, back in the day, we don't use horses in our battles too much these days, do we? You know, I mean, you get out on the battlefield today with an M1 Abrams tank facing you, and you're on a horse. The only danger you are to the person in the tank is that they're going to laugh themselves to death. Because a horse is not a threat to an M1 Abrams tank, or any tank for that matter. But back in the day, when they used horses in battle, they would not leave their horses unprotected. The horses would have armor on them to protect them. It wasn't a complete armor like a knight where it's covering every square inch, but vital organs would have been protected. And we see this here. It says in verse 9, they had breastplates, as it were, breastplates of iron. And so these were locusts that were well defended, you might say. They had an armor about them that was keeping them safe, that you weren't just going to swat one of these away. This is a terrifying creature. It says on their head, they had crowns like gold. And so there was something on their head that looked like a gold crown. It may have been a gold crown, I don't know. And their faces were like the faces of men. So you have these locusts with men's faces on them. And not only that, but in verse 8 it says they had hair as the hair of a woman. So they had men's faces. They had, I would say, long hair. And then it says their teeth were teeth as lions. Now, have you ever seen a lion before? Lions have some nasty looking teeth. I mean, you don't want to get bit by a lion. You don't want to get bit by, who wants to get bit by a dog? What would a chihuahua? Mouse? See, if you don't want to get bit by a mouse or a chihuahua or another dog, you don't want to get bit by a lion. And as terrifying as a lion's teeth are, when you're faced with them and it's being threatening to you, threatening to bite you, that's not the worst part breastplates in verse 9 are the breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. So each one of these made a loud noise that sounded like chariots. The sounds of battle they would make as they flew. And here's the worst part. And they had tails like in scorpions, and there were stings in their tail, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. And so we have these locusts, these locust creatures, these demonic locusts, you might say, with bodies like horses that were armored and prepared for battle. They had gold crowns, face of human male, lion's teeth, loud wings, and scorpion's tail. And they had power to harm people for 5 months. So we know how long this fifth trumpet, the judgment from it is going to last. It's going to be 5 months long. And 5 months may not seem all that long to us under normal circumstances, but consider we just went through 2 months of stay-at-home orders where you had to stay at home except essential workers. Remember that last summer? How much fun was that? You know, that was just 2 months, and it just seemed people were coming in complaining that it was seeming like forever. This is 5 months of these creatures stinging people. And when we look at what they're allowed to do, verse 4, it says, they're commanded that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God on their foreheads. They weren't allowed to touch anything that was normally locust food. They couldn't touch the plant life at all. And they couldn't touch those who had the seal of the Lamb on their forehead. In verse 5 it says, and it was given to them that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months, and their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. So here it is, for 5 months they were to torment people. Now why do they have teeth like lions though? I'm kind of wondering what they eat. Now they're going to be stinging people, but they have to eat something. They can't eat plants. That only leaves flesh. Don't know, that's just speculation. But they are to torment people for 5 months the way a scorpion torments people. They sting people. And look at this in verse 6, and this is where it gets really terrifying. You have these demonic, who wants to see one of these demonic locusts in real life? Any volunteers? Yeah, I saw some pictures online. I didn't think any of them were particularly accurate, but they were pretty terrifying of images people had drawn to illustrate these locusts. Some of them were really terrifying, and I doubt any of those did it any justice. But 5 months, these demonic locusts with scorpion stingers are going to be tormenting men, and they're not allowed to kill. In verse 6, though, is where it gets really terrifying, because it says, in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. Do you get that? During that time, in that 5-month period that they're being tormented, there are people who are going to seek death. They're going to try to kill themselves. They're going to do everything they can to kill themselves. People are going to be taking drugs to kill themselves. They might slit their wrists to kill themselves. They might jump off of a building or off the side of a mountain to kill themselves. And what does the Bible say here? They shall not find death, and death will flee from them. These people are going to be tormented by these creatures. They're going to be terrified by these creatures, and they're going to be tormented and terrified in such a way that these people are going to seek death. They're going to try to die, and they can't do it. I want to draw the distinction here that these people are not unable to harm themselves. They just can't die. Can you imagine a person throwing themselves off of a skyscraper, landing on the concrete below, and surviving? I mean, you go to the hospital and you see someone who fell off of a roof of a house, and they can be pretty messed up. And some people don't even survive a two-story fall. If these people are going to try to kill themselves in any manner of way, any number of ways, and they're not going to die. Can you imagine the broken bones that are not mending? The torment, not only of these scorpion, demonic, locust-like creatures, but the torment that they put themselves through as they seek death, and death is denied them. And then we see, jumping down to verse 11, it says, "And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon." So here it is. Guess what? In this bottomless pit where all these demonic locust, scorpion-like creatures are, is an angel, a fallen angel, a demon you might say, who's in charge of them. It's been locked up for thousands of years. Who knows how long they've been locked in this bottomless pit. And his name is Abaddon. Abaddon means destruction. The Greek name is Apollyon, which means destroyer. That is a mission of these creatures, is to destroy. But to destroy without killing. You know, we get hurt sometimes and we think it takes a long time to heal. And sometimes we get hurt and we think people get hurt bad enough and they just wish they were dead because it's so much pain. And these people are going to see no recovery from that. They're not going to be able to die. They're just going to continue to be in misery. And then we see this, verse 12. "One woe is past, and behold, there come two more woes hereafter." One misery is past. One woe is gone. It's through. 5 months later, it's over. But guess what? As bad as that one was, there's two more to come. Verse 13, it says, "And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the sixth angel, which had the trumpet, Loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates." So here it is. The sixth angel sounds the sixth horn, and I will not sound the horn again. I won't do that to you twice. And he sounds that sixth horn, and then a voice from the four horns to the altar of God in heaven, the golden altar, came out and said, "Loose or release the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates." Guess what? There are things on this earth that we have not seen, and that will not be seen until the tribulation period. The first one are these locusts. The second one, the second creature, the four angels and they are bound, they are imprisoned at the river Euphrates. Don't know how God does that. Don't know how he hides them. Don't know how we can't find them. But we can. But they are there, be rest assured. He says, release them. And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the 3rd part of men. So these 4 angels are there, and they are there, they're bound there, and they're there for one specific purpose, that at a specific hour, of a specific day, of a specific month, of a specific year, they are going to slay a 3rd part of men. In case you're keeping track, the population of the world at this point diminishes to about a 1/6 of what it was when the tribulation started. Kind of puts life in perspective now, doesn't it? And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them. Now, 200,000, just put a number we normally would use, but we seldom hear. It's 200 million. They had 200 million troops with them to perform this function. And I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and jacket and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. And by these 3 was the 3rd part of men killed, by the fire, and by the smoke, and by the brimstone which issued out of their mouths. So these went out. How are these, the 3rd of the people, going to die? Fire, smoke, brimstone, or sulfur. Fire, smoke, brimstone that's coming out of the mouths of these horses with the lions' heads. For their power is in their mouth and in their tails. For their tails were like unto serpents that had heads, and with them they do hurt. So not only are they killing a 1/3 of the population, remaining population of the earth, with fire and smoke and brimstone, but guess what? They have this tail that's like a serpent. 200 million of them. And the tail brings pain, brings hurt, brings suffering. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and of wood, neither can see nor hear nor walk. Neither repented they of their murders, nor their sorceries, nor their fornication, nor of their thefts. Listen, this is not the end of the 6th trumpet. There's still more. 6th trumpet goes all the way through chapter 10. And there's more after that even. But when we look at this, all this stuff happening, these locusts, demonic locusts with tails of scorpions that are tormenting people, and people aren't allowed to die. And then we see these 4 angels and their massive army of 200 million warriors with horses with lions' heads, breathing fire, smoke, and brimstone, and killing people with that, and then tormenting people with the serpent-like tails that they have. And people are suffering, and people are dying. And we even saw earlier that people were hiding in rocks, knowing that that what they were going through, even before the 3 woes, was part of God's wrath on them. And they're going through all this, and the population of the world is diminished to 1/6 of what it was when it all started. Do people repent? Do people turn to Christ? No. It says, the rest of the men that were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils. These people were still worshiping demons. These people were still worshiping idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and wood. Things that can't see, that cannot hear, that cannot walk. They're inanimate objects. And these people are still steadfastly worshiping them, though they know what is happening. They know that this is the wrath of God. They know that their idols cannot protect them. And still, in their pride and arrogance, choose to continue in their wicked ways. Not only are they worshiping demons and idols, but verse 21 says, neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. You know what that? They were unrepentant altogether. They're not repentant of what they've done in the past in their murders, and they are continuing to murder people. They are unrepentant of their sorceries. And the word sorceries here, we think of it as magic users, right? But the word here is pharmakia, which means it's pharmaceuticals. This word sorcery is really, I believe, not just talking about mysticism. I believe that this word sorceries is talking about drug abuse. What have we seen an increase in our lifetime, a dramatic increase in our lifetimes? Drug abuse. I mean, it started off, what did it start off with? I mean, there was a time when some of the drugs were legal, right? I mean, who likes Coca-Cola? That started off, they put cocaine in the original recipe. You're not drinking the original recipe, trust me. But people used it, and then they found out it was bad for you, and it was made illegal. But when I think about it in my lifetime, and in my lifetime, when I was in school, did people use drugs when I was in school? Yeah. You know what they used? They used marijuana. And nowadays, people think of marijuana as what? No big deal. May I say this? Marijuana is, in fact, a gateway drug. Probably not the original gateway drug. The original gateway drug is probably alcohol. But people use it, and the government has decided, well, people are going to use it anyway, so we may as well make it legal. When I was in school, kids that did drugs, really all they were doing was marijuana, which today people think no big deal. But marijuana led to cocaine, heroin, all manner of other drugs. I mean, horrific drugs that we've seen over the decades. Drugs that make people, not just because they're addicts needing to get more, but drugs that actually make people do horrific things because of the drug, not because of a desire to get more. And people know that this, and they're unrepentant of their drug use, their drug abuse. Nor are they repentant of their fornication, their sexual immorality. They just continue doing it. They decide, I just want what I want when I want it. Nor their thefts. See, the theft really gets me. It's like the population of the earth has been diminished to 1/6 of its original population from the beginning of the tribulation period. Why do you need to steal anything? Have you thought about that? I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that's now unclaimed. The people they're not alive anymore. You're not stealing it, and yet they choose to steal from people. See, this is important to know that no matter what God does, because of our sin nature, because we are fallen man, without God calling us, we will never repent. Ever. I mean, here it is. God is pouring his judgment out on these people, they know it's his judgment, and still they're unrepentant. And we say, oh, man, these people are just hard-hearted. Well, let me bring that back around. Aren't we a little bit hard-hearted? Aren't there things that we know we should be doing? That we know for a fact that God has called us to do, and we're not doing anything about it. Sunday school, we've been looking at evangelism. Are we sharing the gospel the way we should? Do we know that our loved ones, that our friends, family members, loved ones, people we don't even like, are going to endure this if they're here during the tribulation period? Do we believe that? Do we believe it? Are we warning them? Are we too afraid to lose a friend, to have a family member angry with us, to have an enemy get more angry with us, to share the gospel with them? See, as hard-hearted as these people are, these wicked people, these unrepentant people, we can be the same way. Here's the problem. If we're hard-hearted towards God's commands and we fail to do what God calls us to do, the consequences aren't just ours. They're everyone else's too. Why do we have the book of Revelation? We have the book of Revelation because we need to warn people. We need to tell them what's coming. What are you going to do about it? Are you going to change your ways? Are you going to share the gospel more? Are you just going to let life go? It's easy to let life go by. It's easy to decide, well, I'm going to start this tomorrow. My dad used to say, tomorrow never comes. And even if it did come, we don't know we have tomorrow. Are you willing to share the gospel? To warn people of the coming judgment. That's not the end of the sixth trumpet judgment. We'll get into chapter 10 next week. But how bad is it going to get? Pretty bad. Dear Lord, I thank you for this day, and I thank you for your grace and mercy, and I ask that you be with us, that you help us to take warning from this book, to share the gospel with others, to really have a sense of urgency about it, Lord. That when we stand before you, we might be happy, be joyful, knowing that we've done what you've called us to do, and we've been faithful to you, that you would call us a good and faithful servant. Lord, I ask that you would help us to be who we ought to be for your honor and glory. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. We have one final song today.